Hi guys, Rachel here, back with another video. Today I'm going to show you how to make some tiny, adorable love heart cookies for your miniature projects in a couple of different ways, sweet or spooky. I know a lot of places use the term cookies. In Australia we call them biscuits, which I know in some places means something else entirely, but you get the gist. Start off with a thin sheet of ecru polymer clay. If you don't have ecru, you can mix your own using beige with a tiny pinch of brown and yellow. Smooth it down onto a small tile and cover with a small piece of cling film or cling wrap or saran wrap, whatever you call it in your country. Using a shape cutter, start cutting out small shapes from the clay. The cling film will give it a nice domed edge. I'm just using this fondant cutter that was bought from eBay. The great thing about these is they come in a set of multiple sizes, so you can use whichever size is best suited to your scale. Once you've cut out your shapes, peel off the cling film. Be sure to get all the little pieces so none of them remain. We don't want that going into the oven. Carefully peel back the outer clay, leaving your hearts firmly attached to the tile. This will make it much easier to decorate them. Now we're going to start adding some texture. You can use an old toothbrush or even a natural bristle brush to do this. Pounce them gently on the surface, but be careful not to squash the clay. I'm not sure if this texture will show up on camera, but you'll see it when you do it. Now we're going to add some colour using some shaved chalk pastels. You can also use pan pastels if you're lucky enough to have any. Take some warm yellows and browns and carefully shave the chalk stick using a craft knife or a tissue blade. Take a large fluffy brush and pounce it on the shavings. We want to mix them up a bit. Gently sweep your brush over the clay. Start building up the layers and achieve a golden baked look. You can add as little or as much as you like. If you'd prefer your cookies look less appetising and more spooky, jump to the Spookify chapter now. Time to pop these in the oven for the first quick bake. Roll out another thin sheet of polymer clay. This is going to be the biscuits filling. You can use whatever colour you like. Just remember there should be a bit of contrast there, and to make it a little bit thinner than the biscuit itself. Using the same cutter that you used to cut the biscuit, cut out some more hearts. We don't need to use cling film this time because it doesn't need the domed top. Now it's time to assemble your biscuits. This is where things get a little bit fiddly, but it does get easier the more that you make. Pick up one of your biscuit pieces and get a really good grip on it. Pick up one of your icing hearts and carefully align it on the biscuit. You can use a tool to do this or use your fingers. I ended up finding fingers to be a bit easier. Once you've got it in place, you can apply the other side and gently squeeze to sandwich them together. If you didn't get your alignment spot on, which is hard to do at such a small size, you can use a sponge to push the icing against the side of the biscuit. This gives it a nice texture and also removes any fingerprints. I'm just using an offcut from one of those big yellow sponges that you use to wash your car. Now it's time to pop these back into the oven for a quick final bake, and they're all done. Stay tuned for the Spookify chapter if you'd like to also see the spooky versions of these biscuits. I'll be showing you a couple of different ways to achieve an old and mouldy look. Let's use the chalk pastels to make these biscuits look less appetising. Using a tissue blade or a craft knife, shave your chalk pastel into fine powder. Apply it with a soft brush and start grunging up those cookies. Select some mouldy colours like black and white, greys and greens. Another effective technique is to use your fingertip to transfer the speckles of chalk dust onto the raw clay. This gives a really convincing speckled mould look and very fine detail. Just be careful to gently pat it on and don't squash the clay. Now these are ready to go into the oven for their first bake. Once they've cooled down, you can add even more detail using matte acrylic paints. Use a crappy old brush and remove any excess paint using a piece of paper towel. Apply the paint using a pouncing motion while rolling the brush between your fingers. This will give you a much more natural look. Remove them from your tile using a tissue blade, and now these guys are also ready for assembly. For the icing, I'm using white polymer clay that I've rolled out thinner than the biscuit. I've used the same heart cutter to cut out the heart shape so they're a perfect fit. Grab one of your biscuits and a piece of icing and carefully align them. Add the second side, and if everything's in the right place, gently squeeze them together. Use the sponge to clean up the edges and remove any fingerprints. Now these guys are ready to go in for their second bake. To create a gory look, we're going to be using alcohol inks and alcohol ink extender. I'll leave a link to my DIY extender recipe in the description. I'm using a couple of different shades of red and the extender to dilute them. It's much easier to use tweezers for this step, so pick up your little biscuit and use a fine brush to paint the edges with the alcohol ink. I'm sort of blobbing mine on for more of a gory look, but you could also use this to create a jam glaze. A bit like a Monte Carlo biscuit if you know what those are. Set them aside to dry and they're all ready for your creepy miniature project. I'll be adding some of mine to my dollhouse of horrors. Thanks for joining me today guys for this cookie heart tutorial. I hope you had fun and found the techniques useful for your miniature projects. Hit the like button and subscribe if you don't want to miss any future vids, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!